It's 3 a.m. in the middle of the North Atlantic. A cargo ship the length of 3 football fields is pushing through total darkness. And out of nowhere, the ocean rises up beside it. A wall of water, 30 feet tall. Taller than a 3-story building. It hits the hull with the weight of a freight train, and the entire ship leans hard to one side. And below deck, 20 crew members don't even open their eyes. Most people hear that and assume it's impossible, that nobody could actually sleep through something like that. And here's the thing almost no one ever considers. Those sailors aren't sleeping through it because they're exhausted, and they're not sleeping through it because they're fearless. They're sleeping because, on a ship built right, a 30-foot wave at night is not an emergency. It's Tuesday. There are 3 layers to this story. The first explains why the ship doesn't flip. The second reveals the technology that keeps it steady. And the third is something almost nobody expects. Something that changes how you think about the ocean entirely. By the end of this video, you'll never look at a ship on the horizon the same way again. So let's start with the obvious question. How does a ship get hit by a wall of water and not roll over? Most people assume the answer is sheer size, that the ship is just too big to flip. Size matters, but it is not the real reason. The real reason is something engineers call the righting moment, and it is one of the most elegant ideas in all of physics. Here is how it works. On a properly loaded ship, the heaviest weight, the cargo, the fuel, the engines, sits low, near the bottom of the hull. The center of gravity is pushed down as far as it can go. So when a wave shoves the ship sideways and it tips, something strange happens. The deeper side of the hull gets pushed down into the water, and the water pushes back, hard. The buoyancy on the low side fights to lift it, while gravity drags the high side back down. The ship does not just resist the tilt, it actively snaps itself back upright. In other words, a well-built ship does not fight to stay level. It wants to be level. You can lean it over, and the moment you stop, the ocean itself stands it back up. Now factor in the scale. A modern container ship can displace over 100,000 tons. A 30-foot wave is enormous to a human standing on deck, but against a steel hull that long and that heavy, it is a shove, not a knockout punch. The ship rolls, it returns, it rolls, it returns. And the people inside have felt that exact motion 10,000 times before. But that still leaves a problem. Because rolling back and forth all night long, over and over, would throw a sleeping sailor straight out of their bunk. Returning upright keeps the ship from capsizing, but it does nothing to make the ride smooth. And that is where the second layer comes in. Because hidden inside the hull, completely invisible from the outside, is a system most people have never heard of. The first piece is so simple, it's almost laughable. Running down both sides of the hull, underwater, are 2 long steel fins called bilge keels. They are just flat strips of metal, but as the ship tries to roll, they drag against the water and fight the motion. No moving parts, no electronics, nothing to break. And just by being there, they can cut a ship's roll by as much as 1/3. But the bilge keel is the basic version. Because the bigger ships, the cruise liners and the modern freighters, carry something far more advanced. Something that doesn't just slow the roll, it cancels it out. They are called active fin stabilizers, and the name undersells what they actually do. Picture 2 retractable wings, one on each side of the hull, mounted below the waterline. They are connected to a computer that reads the ship's motion hundreds of times a second. The instant the ship starts to lean, those fins tilt. And just like an airplane wing generates lift, they generate force in the opposite direction. The ocean pushes the ship one way, and the fins push it right back. On the best systems, this can eliminate up to 90% of a ship's roll. And there's one more layer of defense, and it's the strangest of all. Deep inside some ships sits a giant tank of water called an anti-roll tank. It's designed so the water sloshes from side to side, but slightly out of sync with the ship. So when the hull rolls right, the water is still rushing left, dragging the ship back toward center. The ship is literally using the weight of trapped water to argue with the ocean. So now you have a hull that rights itself, fins that cancel the roll, and water that fights back. Which leads to the question nobody ever asks. What happens at the moment of impact? What happens the second that 30-foot wave actually hits? Okay, picture it. It is the middle of the night. The ship is steaming forward, and a rogue wave appears off the bow. Now here is something most people do not know about rogue waves. They are not a myth. Oceanographers define them as any wave more than twice the height of the waves around it. In 1995, an oil platform in the North Sea measured one at nearly 85 feet, and it was real, recorded on instruments in calmish conditions. They appear out of nowhere, and they vanish just as fast. But the ship has a plan for it. The officer steering at night does not take big waves straight on the side, where they would hit with the most force. Whenever possible, the BOU is angled into them, and the bow is the most overbuilt part of the entire ship, shaped to ride up the face of the wave and slice back down the other side. The hull rises, the water rolls underneath, the hull drops. The whole event lasts maybe 10 seconds. To the steel, it is nothing. The ship was built for exactly this. And down in the bunks, the sleeping crew feels a long, slow lift and a long, slow fall. The same motion they have felt every night of the voyage. Which brings us to the third layer, the part nobody expects. Because here is the truth. On that ship, someone is always awake. A cargo ship never fully sleeps. The crew runs what is called the watch system, rotating shifts around the clock, usually 4 hours on and 8 hours off. There is always an officer on the bridge, eyes on the radar, hands near the controls, watching the sea. The engine room is monitored every minute of every night. So when 20 people are sleeping through a rogue wave, it is because 3 or 4 of their crewmates are wide awake, doing the watching for them. They earned the right to sleep because they know someone has the helm. And the sailors themselves have a few tricks. Most bunks have a lee cloth, a strip of fabric that clips up along the open side of the bed like a low wall, so even in a hard roll, you stay tucked in place. You're not fighting the motion. You're cradled in it. And now, here's the part that surprises everyone. Ask a sailor who has spent years at sea whether they sleep better on land or on the water. And a shocking number of them will tell you the water. On land, back home, the bed is too still. The room is too quiet. After months of being rocked to sleep by the entire ocean, solid ground feels wrong. The gentle, endless roll of the ship, the same motion that would terrify a first-time passenger, becomes the most reliable lullaby they've ever known. The most extreme place on Earth to fall asleep doesn't always produce the most fear. Sometimes it produces the deepest rest. So the next time you see a ship out on the horizon at night, just a few small lights crawling across the dark, remember what's happening out there. The ocean is throwing everything it has at that hull, and inside, most of the crew are sleeping better than you are tonight. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever slept on a boat or out on open water? Did the motion keep you up or knock you out cold? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And if you learned something today, hit that like button. It helps more people find the channel and subscribe for more. I will see you on the next one.